Welcome to the Esports Report. This is your host, Will Nix, and his co-host, Ashley Hodge. Welcome to the Esports Report. Today we have Aaron from PlayVS. Ashley, are you excited to see Aaron from PlayVS?
I am super excited, and we're going to settle the debate. Is it PlayVS or is it PlayVS?
Hey, you know what? I don't care.
Seriously. I've heard it said both ways.
By members of the company. But we're going to hear it from the man himself, folks. Aaron from PlayVS. Welcome back to the Esports Report. We're lucky to have Aaron from PlayVS, or is it PlayVS? Aaron, tell us about yourself.
PlayVS. I'll settle that debate right now.
No.
Yeah, phonetically pronounced PlayVS, spelled out PlayVS. So it's weird because when I talk to schools, I have to say, well, our company is PlayVS, but if you're going to our website, type in PlayVS. So, yeah.
Hey, it's been a battle since day one with you guys on that one because I have people call, hey, this is PlayVS. Hey, this is PlayVS. I'm like, hey, keep it up.
I even do that. I say both.
I do too.
It makes sense. Yeah, I can see it, definitely see it both ways. But yeah, so technically, officially, definitely PlayVS.
You hear it today, folks. Here on the Esports Report, we have a definitive answer to the greatest question. It is PlayVS. So, Aaron, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with PlayVS.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so like I said, my name is Aaron. I lead our community team here at PlayVS. So I work with a lot of our coaches, a lot of our players as well, too. I actually work pretty closely with Ashley as well, too, because I lead our super coach program. So anything really to do with our coaches, hearing their feedback, doing things and making sure that they're kind of going above, like especially coaches that want to go, kind of above and beyond, want to do more beyond just their own esports programs as well too. Some other initiatives I run as well. I also run our Special Olympics Unified program as well too, which is really, really awesome. So anything that has to do with, like I say, getting our coaches involved, getting them to do more for us, or having them, be advocates for other programs, stuff like that as well too. Kind of really all kind of falls under my umbrella.
That's awesome. Ashley, you hit him up with some questions. Your turn.
Well, so I guess my question is, how did PlayVS kind of get involved in esports? Like what did it start? Like how did the company get started, I guess is what I'm asking.
All the way up to our CEO are like super into gaming themselves. So like all of our leadership team is really into gaming. Delane, our CEO, is also a big gamer himself. And so I think they saw for a while, like you really know a lot about the esports scene. There's a really strong professional league. So a lot of professional gaming, a lot of obviously professional leagues. There's a pretty good amount of organization at the college level as well too, but there isn't a lot of really strong structure at the high school level, particularly like actually like esports is actually sanctioned by the school, sanctioned by state associations as well too. And so they saw a really big opportunity and a big gap there that like, hey, like there's a lot of students, particularly, a lot of folks too of varying skill level, and there really isn't an organized amateur scene. And they realize, esports has the same teamwork, mentorship, leadership skills that any other sport or activity on campus will provide. And we thought like, hey, this is an opportunity to create a structure to actually work with the schools, work with the state associations, and provide this as a structured, organized league throughout our high schools.
By the way, brilliant move by going to the National Federation to get so many schools on board.
Yeah, we have been talking about that in nearly every episode, how smart PlayVS was. Because, there's the high school esports league, and then there's the other one that I keep forgetting, the National Federation of Esports, whatever. And they've been around, I think, longer than PlayVS, but PlayVS was the one that really connected with the athletic associations,
the National Federation,
right?
And so, do you know anything about that approach? How they approach the National Federation? Because they're not a group that just let's add more sports, let's add more activities. It takes sometimes years. Y'all came in pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that actually how that got started. It was definitely before my time. So I've been at the company for a little over a year now. I think it was. I mean, I can say broadly that it was definitely based on around a lot of things that I kind of mentioned here. I think a lot of education, kind of first with them breaking that myth that this isn't just video game playing, that this is actually something structured. I think too, like letting them know. I think showing them and winning them over with their business model too, of the idea that like schools just can't sign themselves up. Like Ashley knows as one of our esports coaches that like you have to be verified at the school. You have to actually show that you are actually part of the program.
Wait a second. All right, Aaron, you done hurt my feelings. All right, bro. I am also one of your esports coaches.
Oh, I assume so, but I wasn't
sure. And have been since the beginning. Okay.
Oh, fantastic. Season 0.
Yeah, and won a couple of your state championships, bro.
Oh, wow.
It's really funny.
Apologies.
It's funny because Nix and I think we say this every episode. We met at the first in-person esports state championship for Georgia. And the very first thing I had to tell him was get off the stage.
Yep.
That's how we became
best friends. No, I wasn't. Oh, no. That was the thing. No, wow. I was standing behind my players. I was coaching. Oh, wow. Very cool. And then somebody from your company says, "Hey, get that guy out of our shot."
Oh, they just wanted the players?
They wanted the players.
That's hilarious.
I'm coming down. So
awesome.
And then the other coach got on stage, and I had to tell him also to get off the stage, and it was like super awkward.
Jonathan was not as happy as I was to get off that stage. No,
that's great.
I'm just giving you a hard time, Aaron. We do this every time, like throw out our credentials.
No, yeah, absolutely. And then obviously through our partnership with NFHS, that obviously opened the door for us to talk directly to a lot of state associations, and Georgia being one of the first ones that we did. And they were just, I would say, like the reason why it's grown so much, particularly in Georgia, is one, like we just have a really great relationship with the state association. They're really great partners with us. They're very active and wanting to see esports grow as well too in the state. And I think it comes down to too, like, again, just breaking down that myth of like, this isn't just video game playing. I know we'll probably get into it, but like obviously the opportunities when it comes to like career paths and scholarships and things like that as well too. And it's just like making them realize as well too, like this is gonna be just as legitimate as like any other sport on campus.
Oh, I agree with you. When we won state the first time back, forever ago, 2019, and I don't remember the Fox 5 News report. They had the sports report to talk about it and how, Lambert had just won for League of Legends and we just won for Rocket League. And the guy goes, "Yep, I'm going to have to break out Donkey Kong now because apparently that's a thing." And I went, words.
That was like red flag, as they say.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I am happy, though, to see it kind of in more mainstream media now. During when the pandemic first hit and all the sports shut down, ESPN was like showing the Fortnite tournament that was going
on. The Rocket League tournaments. Yeah.
I never would have thought that I would have seen that on like a sports network. I was delighted and baffled at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that at our side as well too. As like obviously, as you saw, as schools were shutting down everything else, or like, what can we do that's still structured, that still allows for some competitive game? And so we saw schools that were usually saying like, "Oh, we'll wait until next season. We'll wait another year to get it started," ramping it up because they're like, "This is the only competitive thing that we can offer on our campus right now."
Not us.
Yeah, no? we had to play in person. That was a rule.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah, the year of COVID. We're gonna have a COVID episode.
I imagine.
I'm thinking about COVID.
I mean, that could have a part 1, part 2, part 3 at this point. Yeah.
Yes. Which round of COVID do you want to talk about?
Exactly.
Yeah, the Delta, the Omicron, the whatever else is coming.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're shut down again. So tell us about the mission of PlayVS.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's definitely about our players' experience. Again, like I think realizing that like esports and especially competitive esports shouldn't just be limited to those that are like top 100 in the world or top 100 in the United States and things like that, and really trying to provide a place for students who essentially at the end of the day may not find any other community on campus. Almost half our players mentioned that like being part of PlayVS and being part of esports in general on their campuses is the first experience they've had with anything extracurricular. And so we realized that like, hey, like this is growing, and this is something that we like is really, really passionate for us around our students and making sure that they have like again, getting those skills around teamwork, around mentorship, around leadership as well too. And then I definitely will say from like a coach side as well too, is like a lot lot of programs we saw had gaming clubs or, or AV clubs and had gaming involved with them, but they didn't have any type of structure. And we also realized too that a lot of our coaches come in with not a lot of experience, and they don't come in with a lot, some of them, their last experience playing games may be Donkey Kong, but they have really passionate students. And we're like, well, we need to create a space, and our mission too is like making sure that they, on the coaching side too, that you don't feel alone through this process, that you can come in and just realize, like we really try to say at the end of the day, like you're there to be the adult, you're there to provide the structure, but you don't have to necessarily know anything about esports as well too. So kind of being well-rounded first, like I say, first thinking about the players, thinking about making sure that we're creating a great experience for them, but also too that we're creating a great experience for our coaches, because they're the ones at the end of the day, players do come and go, they graduate, but we want coaches, hopefully not only sticking around season after season, but building up their team season after season. As we're adding titles and stuff like that, they don't feel overwhelmed and that they feel supported as well too.
Well, speaking of adding titles, okay, no, actually,
it's probably one of our always on our number one questions. It's like, what are you adding next? Yeah, or like something like that. So
that was coming, but
yeah.
Well, before we get to titles and the 8 that we're looking at this season, I was gonna say I wanted to brag on Georgia a little bit. Because I think Georgia's been really good about helping coaches. We have the advisory board that Will and I are both a part of, which I think that every state, every state that has an esports should create an advisory board, because those people making those decisions, like you said, their last game might have been Donkey Kong or Tetris or Duck Hunt.
Or their only experience with gaming is seeing negative stuff on the news.
Yep.
And I think that's caused us some issues.
Yeah. I mean, Ashley, I might just say too, like you may have actually been talking about this, because we are actually looking to create, using Georgia as a model, actually creating some advisories in some other states. Because exactly what you're saying, like a lot of these state reps, like, they're fantastic supporters, but yeah, like they feel a little bit lost with this as well too. It's something sometimes that it gets thrown on them, like, hey, you're doing these 3 sports, oh, now you're doing esports as well too. And so a lot of them, yeah, they're welcoming the help, they're welcoming like the coaches. And so we have one kind of popping up in Utah now. We're in talks of starting one in Arkansas as well too, and hopefully every state eventually has one of these as well, and saying like, hey, like don't feel alone through this, like we have coaches that want to be a part of the process as well too.
And coaches like Will and I, who have been around since season 0.
Season 0. I was helping out a coach in Tennessee. One of your predecessors, Adrian, had called me up. Hey, Will, you've run a good program this year. Can you tell this coach how you got some computers?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, it's huge, because like at the end of the day, like we have to recognize as a company, like we are in the education space, but we're not educators ourselves. And so that's why we have things like super coaches or we lean on other coaches to bring other schools on board. Because at the end of the day, like I can't ground the process for you. I can't tell you what it's like to be an esports coach in Georgia. I'm never going to be one. And so like we can give high numbers. We can give you all the details about the products, the titles we offer and what our platform does. But at the end of the day, like you need to hear from someone of like, hey, I'm an esports coach in Georgia. I had no experience getting into this, and now I have one of the top programs in the state, and really ground it for someone else to be able to like, oh, this is something I can do. Like this is not like out of reach for me to start a program at my school as well too.
Well, I want to give a shout out to you guys on that with what I think it's different than it was the first couple of years. It was so PC heavy when I first got started, and you talking about separating the rich from the poor. Trying to get some gaming PCs took a lot, and I was blessed. I mean, I really was. I had a local company that provided us some gaming PCs and got us hooked up. And if it wouldn't have been for that, I don't think we would have won as much as we had. So
yeah, and we kind of started with PCs because our initial thought was like, well, schools already have computers. Like that's a good place to start. They have the equipment. As you've come to learn, some of the equipment can run some of these titles, but we now definitely say like start with what you have, but definitely don't assume because your school has say 15 computers in the computer lab that you can play Rocket League. Like check with your tech departments, check with your IT, make sure that they can. They could, but most likely they may not be able to.
Not to the level you need it. Not the
exactly. League of Legends is sometimes a little bit easier, but Rocket League, I know Rocket League can be a little bit tough on PCs and stuff. Yeah. So that's definitely why we kind of originally started. That was their initial thought, but now we're realizing too that like And I think I personally, I think Switches has been the best addition, because if you get Switches, not only do you obviously get 3 Nintendo titles, but you also get Rocket League as well too. If to get a school started, that's almost half our titles right there that you can add.
And it's also cost. I mean, for the cost of one PC, you can have 5 Switches. I mean,
right. And there's chances too that a school has them already, and the fact too that like some of our games like Smash, you actually only need 1 to have a team of 3 and things like that. So we've seen Smash explode because of that, because it only takes 1 console and 1 online account to technically run a whole team of 3 as well, which is really cool.
And most of the high school students have a Switch, like at my
console
school, especially or a console. Yeah. So let's swing into games. Let's swing into these 8 titles that we're offering, since Will over here did his 1-minute rant.
About killing me. You can't. Okay. All right.
How many titles we have?
Okay. All right. So when we first started, there was one. There was the League of Legends. And then I'm glad that we added Rocket League. I mean, very glad. And I was glad that we all, started adding 1 more here, 1 more. We're up to 8. You're killing me, bro. You're killing me, bro.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure folks have a variety. We definitely, especially for new coaches, we say don't make this seem intimidating. Don't seem like you have to take them all on at once. Like start with 1, maybe start with 2, and build from there. I think having a variety, and I think not only having a variety, but a variety of consoles that they're available on as well too. Like even with Madden and PS4, as I think, again, allowing schools to kind of pick and choose what's best for them, and figuring out, like most schools, I would say first season, they're starting off on 1 console and honestly starting with maybe 2 titles or something like that. But yeah, so just trying to provide a little bit more variety, but not also like definitely striking that balance of like we want to add more popular, very popular titles that people want to see, but not going overboard with it either, where like it's too overwhelming at once. And so there are some seasons like, oh my gosh, we had 3 at once, and it's a lot. But then there are some times we hope where there's like seasons where we're just sticking with those, the ones that we have, and not adding more and stuff like that.
Okay,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you know the process that is used to like select games and how they get approved?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like first and foremost, we don't look at anything that's above teen. We try to go with titles that are safe and friendly. And then obviously too, that, like with our partnerships with state associations, we have to keep that in mind too, with a lot of titles that we add, that like we want to get approved by the state associations. We have to have those conversations as well. So we definitely look at seeing what's most popular. I know even right now we're looking to put together a new survey just to go out to coaches and players and seeing what is popular right now with folks. And so we're always looking to see what are the top titles people are playing. So that really comes into play. Also, like, it's really important for us to provide a variety. So, I mean, we mentioned on the console PC side, offering a variety there, but also too, making sure we have a variety in complexity. So, because when we first started with League of Legends, like, as you guys know, League of Legends is a very complex title. You're not picking it up overnight and stuff like that.
No.
Right. So
no.
So we wanted to balance that. So we want to have titles like Rocket League or Splatoon or Smash that are a little bit more user friendly, a little bit easier too for maybe a student who never played competitively before to start off a season and grow throughout that season as well too. So we definitely keep that in mind. And then I would just say lastly too, when it comes to title selection, like partnerships are really, really important to us. And so we try to partner with every title that we offer on our platform. We try to partner with the publisher to offer it as well too, because we do definitely believe that they should be equal partners in this. If we're getting in the high school space, they should be getting in the high school space with us. And so we have partnerships with Riot. We have partnerships with Nintendo as well too. And so and we're also working to get partnerships with like EA right now as well too. Right now we have a license to offer like Madden and stuff like that. But those things are really, really important to us as well. So that one that, like, if we need like technical support or we have issues, things like that, we're not left holding the bag. Like we can go directly to the publishers and say like, hey, coaches are telling us this. Hey, we're having, issues with XYZ and stuff like that. And they're equally involved in the process as well too.
Well, I found it interesting is that with the current selection, I have to say you hit the nail with Mario Kart. That has brought kids that I didn't think I'd ever see have shown up. And the fun and the difficult part for coaches, and I'm sure you've heard this, is that no one thinks they're bad at Mario Kart until they are. I mean,
oh my gosh, we did a like internal company a tournament right before the end of last year. We call it like Play versus Stadium. We sometimes do internal tournaments of different titles. I think we actually even streamed it and stuff. And I hadn't played a lot on the Switch, but I used to play the old versions on 64. I played like like Mario Kart 7 on Wii and stuff, and thought I was pretty good. And like I was testing and practicing with some other folks in the company. And then I go and play with like other people at the company. I just get absolutely stomped. Like I could not, I like unbelievably bad, like comically bad. And like one thing I learned that particularly with Mario Kart is like the drifting and stuff like that. If you don't know how to drift,
important.
it's so important.
So important.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking to like adding too many, not to add, obviously adding too many titles at once as well too, is like we technically announced that Mario Kart was coming when we made our announcement like last May with Nintendo. But like we made a conscious decision, like let's start with Smash, let's start with Splatoon, let's build those up. And it was already always part of the plan to add Mario Kart in spring to like let's slowly roll these out as well too, even with these partnerships. Exactly, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a really fun title, but like I couldn't believe that the level of complexity. You think, oh, it's just a racing game, like how hard can it be? Like nope, pretty hard. Yeah.
What I was going to say is, Nintendo's been like anti-competitive gaming for a very long time. I was delighted and surprised that they agreed to do that. I mean, it's amateur only, but I was just like, I don't know how PlayVS swung it, but they swung it and got Nintendo.
You hit the big fish because people have been trying to get Nintendo forever. And I remember talking when they started releasing Super Smash last year, and it was, they just sent a stop and cease and desist letter to somebody for running a tournament, but yet PlayVS landed them, and kudos, guys. I mean, really.
Yeah, I definitely heard a lot about. Obviously, I was definitely involved when all that was coming up and stuff like that. But I have to say, yeah, they've been really great partners with us. Been really hands on as well too, and like really wanting to see. Like they're really interested in how successful our leagues are going as well too. They're actually like at the end of the fall, they wanted to hear directly from coaches, directly from players, how the season was going, how we can improve. And I know like one big thing that came up was like a lot of network connectivity issues and network issues, particularly with playing on campus. And they actually were like wanting to be involved and wanted to help troubleshoot those and realize that they were equal partners in this. So yeah, it was definitely a fun shock, and they've been, like I say, been great partners ever since with us as well too.
Can you go back to them and ask them to make the 4v4 a little easier to set up?
Right. Yeah. A little. Yeah.
It's just a little hard.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. And we're hopefully, looking to obviously expand our, this is just a start with them too, when it comes to like titles and stuff. We're hoping, nothing I can say on the horizon, like officially on the horizon, but like this partnership is not going to stop just at these 3 titles. This is kind of where we're starting. And like I say, like we have great success with a lot of our titles, but like Nintendo has been something else in terms of like, I think even like Smash is going to overtake being it's going to rival Rocket League as being one of our top titles this spring.
I think Mario Kart's going to push you even. It's going to push Rocket League even more. At least I'm seeing it on my end. Ashley can tell you. I don't know about hers on this as much, but
yeah, I'm seeing the death of League of Legends in my program. At Colquitt, I had like 15 teams. That was in 2018, 2019. And now I'm kind of lucky to have one. I honestly don't even know if I'm going to have one full team, and I'm sad because that's the game I grew up on. But, MOBAs just aren't as popular now as they once were.
Yeah, it's just tougher too because it is that team of 5, and like I say, we already mentioned before, it's not a title you can just pick up overnight as well too. No. So if you have 4 players, you know what I mean, like finding that 5th, if they're not there, it's sometimes hard to do as well too, for sure.
Right, and so okay, I have to shout out to Brad. He's one of our advisory council members. He was playing around on your website and found some NBA 2K out there.
Nothing I can officially say.
Nothing. I told him I'd do it. But
nothing I can officially announce or anything. Nothing I can officially say. But we do test out. Let's say we do test out like different things in our product sometimes as well to test out different leagues, how they would work if we did eventually add titles and stuff like that. So so nothing I can officially say there. But yes, I did hear about I can confirm that I did hear about that today.
Okay,
Yeah.
I bet you
Yes.
did.
Oh yes.
That
Yes.
screenshot was being passed across the esport coaches of the world. Like, hey, did you see this?
Yes. Yeah.
So if there was a title, if you had a dream title that you could offer, Aaron, if it's like it doesn't have to be related with PlayVS, but if there was a game that you was like, I want this played, what would it be?
Oh boy, that's tough. Because honestly, I've actually because like I'm a pretty casual gamer myself. I've never been at any competitive level, and so I've honestly been diving into the titles we've been offering. So I've been playing like myself. I've been playing a lot of Splatoon 2 personally. Like it's been really, really, really fun. Like I never thought I would like the title. It seemed too cartoonish for me and too like childish, but like wow, it is so much fun to play. I think Ashley, I think you've played with us before as well too, and we used to do like stream nights and stuff.
I did bad.
Oh, so much fun. But no, it's a dream title. Wow, that's a tough one. I definitely like I always like seeing like what's new, what's on the horizon. So like I like having things that I think that newer titles that kind of sometimes come out that you don't think like I think even sometimes the developer doesn't even realize that this could be a big esports potential title. Like the one I'm thinking off the top of my head is like Knockout City, where like I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like from EA. It's like a dodgeball 4v4 game. Where it kind of has a kind of a mentality of Splatoon 2, things like that. But like titles like that, or like even like the new Nintendo Brawl game as well too, is potentially another competitor or another option besides Smash and stuff like that. So those are the ones that kind of really, really interest me. That I really like. Those I honestly like. Other than that, I can't think of like under the sun any type of like particular dream titles. But those are the ones that kind of come to mind.
So if I didn't ask this, my kids would kill me.
Yeah.
So because I get this, coach, why can't we play? Give us the reasons why we can't play certain games.
I mean, like that's actually like that's the $1 million question, and it definitely has a lot of parts to it. First and foremost, obviously, like we do try to keep everything teen or below when it comes to what we offer on our site. And then just the reality is too, obviously with some titles, like, with our partnerships with states, stuff like that, like it's a hard conversation to have, like, like be able to offer, I think we know which ones we're talking about here and stuff like that.
Fortnite.
Things like that. Yeah. It's just, being part of the school setting, we have to obviously work with parents, and like when you do become more legitimate and you do have that designation, you're working directly with partners, there are limits to what you can offer. And it's not like we are having those conversations with them. We are looking to see like how we can potentially implement these in the future. But it is just like, for the meantime, it is just frankly, obviously a tough conversation to have. And, and so like something that like for our sake, it's easier. And then sometimes, when the state does, maybe potentially unfortunately say no, stuff like that, just being able to honor that and stuff like that as well too. We did try, we tried with like youth league, stuff like that, but like, without needing a coach, thinking like, oh, this is one way to offer it. And, we decided, this year to pause that product because we realized that like high school is where it's at. Like having that coach be part of the program is so important as well too. So like that was like really the path we wanted to kind of pursue. And like I say, we're not giving up on titles like that, but it's like, it's more of like, let's hone in, focus on what's really working right now. And then like have those conversations afterwards as well too with states.
So in the middle of, talking about new titles and all this other kind of fun stuff, Aaron, what do you see any titles that have not taken off that y'all thought would, or are underperforming and thought would do better?
I wouldn't say like drastically. There are definitely titles that are a little bit more popular than others. I will say sometimes it has nothing really to do with the actual titles. It has to do with the consoles or just like the team formatting, us figuring out what's the best way to offer it as an esports as well too. So like Madden is a good example of this, where like we had it as teams of 3, but in reality they really were playing as solos. And so we've actually retooled it here for the spring and actually seen improvements because now it's a 1-person team. Did the same thing for the fall too. But when we first had it in spring of 2021, teams of 3, we saw a little bit more less of adoption and stuff like that. But now we're seeing it grow as well too. I would say the same with something like Splatoon 2. Like it's definitely a popular title, and I think like we're definitely excited too about the prospects of potentially with Splatoon 3 on the horizon as well too, of it getting a bigger bigger boost again as well too as a title. But I definitely will say with programs getting started up that like, with Smash, it's so great that you only need one Switch for a team. Mario Kart, you really at bare minimum only need 2, but Splatoon, it's absolutely needed to have 4. And sometimes that's just a little bit of a difficulty. So I would think it's less around like, again, it's less around popularity. It's more of us like retooling, figuring out like one day of the weeks as well too. It's like, hey, is this just the wrong day for us to put this title on? And also too, like equipment needs, things like that, things that we need to help out with. And so like we started offering better packages too for some schools to be able to have switches for Splatoon and things like that as well.
Yeah, I'd like a couple more, yeah. Sure. As a small program, sure. Come on. Ashley?
I was just going to say, what changes do you think we'll see in esports kind of in the future? Like, where do you see this going? And you can talk specifically about Georgia if you want to, and then you can talk like just nationwide where you think it's going to go.
Yeah, like to me, the biggest thing is just like just in general, just growth. Because I think a lot of schools are still, I think we're still in the infancy of like high schools and like, think about we're hitting a lot of schools, but we're still just scratching the surface of schools that have programs. Like, at the end of the day, we're growing season after season, but we're still not hitting like, even half of the potential high schools that we could in the country. So I think just like the overall awareness, and I think just the general adoption that like that negative stigma is going to go away. And I think you're just going to see this just being a part of programs. Like, it's not going to be a question anymore that a school has an esports program. That's definitely where I see it, particularly like particularly in Georgia being one of our early adopters. Like it's becoming less and less of like, oh, is this something that the schools add maybe if they have time, or maybe if they have the budget, or maybe they have like the capacity of like, no, like this is like, it would be just as insane not to have having a basketball team as it would not be having an esports team as well too. So I definitely see that. And then I would say like nationwide as well too. You're seeing really, again, like a lot of growth in the college side, because you see a lot of schools 50, 60 years ago, they were saying like, hey, we wanted to be number 1 in basketball. We want to be number 1 in football. And now you have colleges today saying like, hey, like our time has passed to be able to do that, but we can be number 1 in esports. And so you have you're going to start seeing too, I think, some new colleges, new schools you may never necessarily have never even heard of before coming to the scene, being like some of the top schools for esports and heavily recruiting, more and more money being poured into this as well too. Because like, I think the last few years has been like around 15 million or so in scholarships going out to students. I could see that going into triple digits in terms of millions of dollars and stuff like that as more and more schools like take these programs on board. So to me, it's just all around the like any type of new venture or new area, particularly when you're talking about working in the public sector, when you're working with, at the end of the day, like a lot of, government employees or people in the public sector, there's always a joke that they're always 10 years behind the trends of where things are, particularly when it comes to technology. And so I think you're just going to see, it's a slow ramp, but you're going to see more and more schools adopting this, and it being less of a question of like if, but more of like when we have an esports program.
Awesome. I think that may be one of the only hurdles I see in the future, because when you build a basketball court, it lasts for 30 years. You build it lasts. And we have network infrastructure that does last, but we all know consoles come and go. Yes. And I think, is that going to be the next big hurdles when it's time for next gen to step in?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Because obviously we recognize that's a big commitment for schools. A lot of schools are obviously, going out of pockets to pay for PlayStation 4s and Nintendo Switches and stuff like that. And again, I think luckily having those publisher agreements allows us to know that when we make these commitments that we can at least guarantee that they're going to be around for several years. Like, even though the PlayStation 5 exists, we're gonna be on PS4 as long as Sony is keeping the
supporting that network.
Yeah, right. And you do see now with consoles, like back in the day when a new console came out, man, they would stop supporting that old console maybe 2 years into its run. Yeah, now like as long as people are still using it and still playing it, they'll continue to support it.
Actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the PS3 just now got discontinued on support. I think that was this year where they're like, hey, that's how long it took. I mean, back in the day, like you said, they'd have cut the throat immediately and moved on. But now they're like, no, we need those Game Pass certificates. We need all that revenue
Same with like games too. Like you have games that people, they're like 10 plus years old. If people are still, they're like, well, where's the next version? Where's the new, where's, the next version of it?
Where's Rocket League too? Right.
Right. But like, yeah, they're like science is not going to create it if a ton of people are still playing Rocket League. They're like, what's the point? Why invest in something when people are still enjoying and still heavily playing what we already have? Exactly. So yeah, that's always definitely a challenge for sure. And like, I'm hoping schools like bake that into their budgets of like, hey, like this is good for 5 years, but we do know like we have like maybe like, our esports budget is like, is stays static for 5 years. Like this is how much it costs, but knowing every 5 years, there's going to be an additional cost for upgraded equipment, upgraded consoles, things like that as well too. And we definitely are trying our best to help step in as well too, particularly on the game side, because especially when you add sports titles, there's literally a new version every year. Because that seems to be the one genre that doesn't matter how popular the past version was, they're always going to come out with the next version and stuff like that. But even with that, like we waited, like Madden 22 has been out we technically could have done it in the fall. Honestly, we probably could have even done it in the spring, but we stuck with 21 for at least 2 seasons. We're going to do the same thing with 22 as well too, is making sure that like when schools are making these investments, like we'll stick with them as long as it's possible, as long as like the gaming companies or the console companies are supporting them as well too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ashley?
I was going to ask, what's it like working at PlayVS? I know it's still technically a startup company. Like
definitely.
It hasn't been around quite that long, but just give our audience I guess just an overview of what it's like to work for like an esports company.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really exciting. I have to say, like we always use the joke because it's a startup. It's like you're building the plane as you're flying it. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of new exciting things happening. So just as like coaches can be shocked or surprised or they're excited when we add new titles or new publishers as well too. We are exactly the same way here as well too. And we definitely try to the company definitely tries to hire folks that have either education backgrounds or have gaming backgrounds as well too. We brought a lot of folks on recently from like Activision Blizzard to now run our league ops and things like that. And we're even like down to where our offices are. Like offices are right by the Riot offices and things like that. Like that was a conscious decision as well too. Definitely will say that it's been a little bit of a bummer because we have been mostly all remote. I mean, I've stepped in the office maybe a handful of times just because luckily I personally live close to it. But like the fact that like it's been a little bit more tough of definitely building that camaraderie and having that when we're all definitely remote. But the company's done a lot of great things, a lot of like company happy hours. Like I mentioned before, we have like PlayVS Stadium, which is like our internal like competitions and stuff like that. And it's just fun to take on new challenges. It's definitely like a lot of work, not gonna lie. There's definitely like I came on board and I was supposed to take on just handle like X, Y, and Z, and now I'm handling A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and X, Y, and Z in terms of things that you do here. You kind of end up wearing many hats and learning, and it's kind of the startup life of like, hey, if you recognize something isn't being done, more than likely you're going to want to, and then you're the one that recognizes it, you're more than one that's likely it's going to have to take it on as well too for it to be able to get done. So yeah, so very exciting, but also very rewarding as well too. Like I'm very thankful, like that I'm one of the, I wouldn't say one of the few, but I'm some of the employees that actually gets to talk with coaches on a daily basis, hear what they're saying. And then like it was so rewarding too to actually get to go out and actually meet some this past season as well too, because that's what I would honestly, because I started in December of 2020 and I would have done that from day one. I would have done a little bit of a road show, go out and meet coaches, and just like not being able to do that was definitely stunk as well too. But just like being alongside with these folks, seeing as they grow as well too, and seeing their programs grow and their players really experiencing this and having fun as well too is definitely rewarding from our end as well. And I love being able to be one of the few people that come and gets to share these stories with the rest of the folks. So like our engineers and stuff like that who don't interact with their coaches on a daily basis.
So our last question here.
Yeah.
If you were to talk to students who are interested in careers in esports, what kind of advice would you give them? College, whatever, those kind of things.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is like don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't think that you need to like be a software engineer. You have to get into game design to be in the esports world. There is like, just like with any industry, you could literally pretty much major in anything and still be involved in esports in some capacity. I mean, all the way down. I mean, there's even some colleges now that are offering esports marketing minors because they realize how much of a $1 billion industry it is. So like at the end of the day, like pick what you're passionate about doing, and more than likely it's going to fit into the esports world. So, you know, if it's graphic design, if it's like event coordination, if it's shoutcasting, there's so many different paths you have to take. There's not one direct path you need to take to get into esports. I mean, I think I'm kind of living proof of that. You know what I mean? Like my background is definitely more in community and working with users and helping to celebrate, you know, and uplift our communities. But like, I didn't go to college thinking I was going to have a role in esports, yet here I am as well too. And just like having faith that if that's what you want to do, there's going to be positions available for you. I mean, the same with like, you know, helping even down to things like doing social media and things like that. Like companies are constantly needing these folks. Like you look at these bigger companies, like how many different, like we call it, there's kind of like a business term. It's called like vertical integration. Like they're in everything, you know what I mean? They're not just producing the game, they're producing the competitions. Like there's just so many different paths and so many different places that like really, like I say, like really like broaden your horizons. Don't kind of pigeonhole and think like, oh, I have to be actually physically developing the games myself in order to be involved in video games or esports. Like, no, there's so many different paths you can take. And the one last thing I would say as well too is like take chances with like there's a lot of schools out there, a lot of colleges that folks may have like never heard of or never seen before, but like they're offering a lot of scholarships as well too. And like I say, well, for a lot, the path to becoming a professional gamer is tough, just like it is with, you know, any other sport. But like a lot of these schools, they're not even looking for like the top 100 Rocket League players or top, you know, say 100, even titles we don't offer like Valorant or something like that. They want like moderately skilled players because there's just such a high demand right now for these, you know, these colleges are getting like, you know, directives from their deans and stuff like that saying like, hey, you need to build out your esports program now. And so they're aggressively recruiting. And so like take chances too, maybe in a school you didn't think about as well too, or a school that maybe wasn't on your top 10 list. But if, you know, if they're going to provide a scholarship to you or potentially even a full ride, like give them a chance, like that could be an ability for you too to save a lot of money at college as well too.
Awesome. Aaron, thank you so much for having being on here with us, and give us a shout out. Let us know that, you know, PlayVS shows the love, and the Esports Report loves you guys and loves us too. So
yeah, I'm glad to come back anytime you guys will have me.
Love to have you.
Awesome.
Well, that's our interview. Bye, guys.
Well, folks, that was an awesome interview with Aaron. Ashley, how did you feel about the interview?
I think it went pretty well. I think we had a really good interview. It shed some light on PlayVS and how they function as a company. And I think it's just really good to have the main supporter of Georgia High School esports and esports across the nation on our podcast. It's very important to us.
I think it's important. I know what's important to you. It's time for Ashley's Minute Rant. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our second segment with this. Ashley, you got a minute? Go.
Are you going to time me?
Oh, I got you. Go.
Okay. My rant today is how women are treated in esports. Okay. Girls, let me tell you, you do not have to put up with the same nonsense that I've been putting up with since the 90s. If you are a female in the high school esports PlayVS league, you are covered. Something happens immediately, boom, ban hammer on the person that was mean to you. You don't have to put up with inappropriate DMs, people saying, oh, you're just a girl, you don't know what you're talking about. You might have to actually put up with that a little bit if you're playing on your own. But if you're playing in a sanctioned PlayVS match, you don't have to put up with that nonsense. And I will tell you it's gotten better, but I am still sick of being told that I'm just a girl and I don't know what I'm talking about. It is very agitating.
And that's her minute, folks. And Ashley, she's a woman. Hear her roar. So, folks, this is Will Nix for the Esports Report saying, Ashley, tell them what to say.
Bye.
See you, folks, on the Esports Report.